Today we look back at two John Candy films, Who's Harry Crumb and his final screen role in Wagons East. As Harry Crumb, Candy plays a bumbling detective, similar to Clouseau, but much less French. Despite his immense size and being incredibly easy to recognize, Crumb believes he's a master of disguise, going as far as donning brownface to fool his nemesis. Only Harry Crumb would be dumb enough and ignorant enough to think that he could pull it off. The film was directed by Paul Flaherty, who worked at SCTV with Candy and his brother Joe Flaherty.
Oh, well, I mean, it depends on how you define start. I mean, when I was young, teenager, my brother Joe and I would do parodies on audio tape. We did a parody of To Kill a Mockingbird, Lawrence of Arabia. We did a bunch of film and TV parodies. And that's sort of how we started out. And then I got into filmmaking with 8mm cameras, not even Super 8, 8mm, which is like Dark Ages, you know, and you try to edit 8mm film and you actually try to splice that film. When it goes through the gate, it's just like there's an earthquake every time there's a cut. And then eventually went to New York, to the New York Institute of Photography, and learned film craft, came back and started working for WQED in Pittsburgh, which is where Mr. Rogers used to do his show. And worked there for a while, but they were kind of artsy-fartsy, and I didn't like them. So I went to Chicago, where my brother was, on stage at Second City. But I was, again, into the music, cheaper to get a guitar than to get a film budget. So I was doing the music. A gig opened up when Second City came out here to Pasadena in, what was it, 75. And I played piano for the Second City Review. And there I met Dick Blasucci, who eventually became my writing partner, because we started writing together. And we did a few little gigs, and we wrote a screenplay that Harold Ramis, we gave to Harold Ramis to read. He liked it a lot and recommended us for the SCTV writing staff, which my brother Joe was already on, but I didn't want to do the nepotism thing, you know? But Harold recommended us. So they hired us. We went up to Toronto, and it was the most terrifying 2 weeks of my life, because I had never done sketch before. These guys had been doing it for years. They had everything down pat. They knew exactly how to do it, exactly, you know, where to go to get the source material, how to quickly translate that into a sketch. And I was sitting there, and day one went by, day two went by. I had no idea what to say. Nothing to say or contribute. I couldn't have been more mortified. I thought at one point, someone was going to turn to me and say, all right, look, you're not going to have one fucking idea, are you? So why don't you just pack up and get out of here, you know? That was literally my mortal fear that they were going to say that to me, because I was so intimidated by it. And then eventually, I was in a hotel room. I just started wringing my damn head, trying to come up with something that I thought would be a parody premise that they could possibly like. And at the time, there was a show on called Grizzly Adams. It was about a guy, a mountaineer, and he befriended a grizzly bear. So I thought, what can I do to maybe parody that? What angle can I give that? And so after squeezing my head for a whole weekend, I came up with the idea, well, what if instead of a grizzly bear, he befriended a turtle? And I changed his name from Grizzly Adams to Grizzly Abrams. So he was this mountaineer guy who had a pet turtle. And he was trying to start a fire and whittle the sticks to get a spark, and it blew up in his face and burned him. And he had to send the turtle into town to get help. Cut to a shot of the turtle on the road, just going real slow. Then, dissolve. Slow, dissolve, slow. Cut to the sheriff's office. In comes the turtle through the through the front door, and they said, "Hey, it's Grizzly's turtle," and I think he's trying to tell us something, And so they follow the turtle. They're in a car behind the turtle, going about 1.5 miles per hour, and they finally get back to Grizzly's camp, and he's nothing but a skeleton. He's just dead at that point, I pitched that idea. I thought, well, they'll either kick me out and say, "Get the fuck out and never darken my towels again," or they might like it. And they liked it. They said, "Okay, write it up." So Dick and I wrote it up, and they shot it. And it got in the show. Boy, that took the pressure off, Slowly but surely, we started getting the hang of it, Dick and I. And kind of became permanent fixtures on the show. I don't remember the first time I met Candy. Oh, yes, I do. It was in Pasadena. He was on the stage show. That's where I met Johnny. I forgot about that. Immediate, had an immediate affinity with my brother Joe and me. A lot of this similar tastes in comedy. He and Joe really hit it off. They were close for quite a while. And then, of course, when I started working on the show, we were around each other all the time. And John was amazing. I mean, the thing about that show, about SCTV, was it was character driven. Every one of them loved doing characters, losing themselves in characters. And John, particularly with wigs, Joe and I always talked about this. John would always start his character with the hairpiece. I remember there was one sketch we came in, and he had chosen to have a small scalp, a small wig, and it was just the funniest look. He just didn't have a lot of scalp, and he didn't have a lot of hair, and it was just a great choice. He was always doing, stuff like that, coming up with some wrinkle for the character, as they all did. They sent me the script, and I went in and I interviewed with the head of TriStar at the time. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. They were interested because of the way I reacted to the script, and the fact that I got it, And so they set up a meeting with Brandon Tartikoff. He was the head of NBC. And Who's Harry Crumb was an NBC production, although it wasn't a TV movie, but it was NBC film productions. So I had to meet with Tartikoff, whom I had already met with because he's the one that greenlit SCTV. So I had met him before. Jeff Sagansky was the guy, was the president of. So Jeff Sagansky and I and Tartikoff met, and we were throwing around casting ideas. And Tartikoff said, "What about John Candy?" And I said, "Well, of course, John Candy would be great, He said, "Why don't you call him and see if he's interested?" So I did. I called John and sent him over the script. He loved the script and immediately demanded a ton of money for it. So they haggled back and forth about the money. It was interesting during that part because once the actual haggling about the money was taking place, John and I weren't speaking because he wanted to keep the two separate, right? And then once they came to terms, then that was that. Picture got greenlit, and off we went.
I've had my eye on you for a while, lady. I knew you were up to something. Now here's my proof. It was you who were having an affair with your husband all along.
What?
I've uncovered some low-life schemes in my time. But secretly hiring me to take pornographic pictures of you and your sleazeball husband is as low as it gets.
I don't believe this.
Well, believe what you want, but don't believe it here.
You or a poor excuse for a human being.
Says you.
I thought he would emphasize more the Clouseau side of Crumb, but he chose to play it more as a guy who was compensating for the fact that he was the black sheep of the family, so he would overcompensate by playing it tough. That surprised me a little bit. And as a matter of fact, the producer of the movie didn't like that side of the character. But at that point, the character was set, so there was nothing we could really do about it. Now, eventually, he did agree to soften the character up a bit because we did some reshoots on it, and he shot some softer stuff with the character, right, where he would bond with the young girl, Shawnee Smith. I think it was okay. I think it helped to round the character out. By and large, I loved what John did with that character. Again, I think the key to it was his insecurity, because he was the black sheep of the Crumb family, and his trying to overcompensate for it, by spewing, bullshit, basically. But then while he's doing that, right in the middle of it, his naivete will come out, He can't, he's trying to come off as the hard-bitten detective. That's what he was doing. The hard-bitten private eye. I'm talking about Crumb himself, not John. But then he can't help but reveal how naive he is. Even when he's just like making a complete fool of himself, he still sticks with it. Like one of my favorite scenes is that scene where he meets the woman. He's the Don King scene where he's taking the pictures of the woman having an affair, and she's hired him to take pictures of her husband having an affair, but instead he wanted he screwed it up and took pictures of her having an affair. That scene in the office there where the oranges are falling off the tree. He played that so perfectly, because they would be talking, all of a sudden, boom, one of the oranges would fall off that tree, and he was oblivious to it because it's his office and the oranges are always falling off that tree. And she finally says, "Is that tree diseased?" And he says, "What are you talking about?" He had no idea what she was talking about. I just liked that scene. I liked the way she looked. I liked the way it played. It was fun. It was fun to see. It was fun to edit that scene too. And he got that comedy so well. He could be so subtle, and he could play the big physical stuff as well. I remember Marty Short saying his favorite moment in that movie was the moment when John. It was after John was on a fan. He was swinging around on a fan. And then we cut to later on when he was coming out, and he couldn't keep his balance because he was so dizzy. And Marty said he just got hysterical at that. That's where John went with that, John was so creative, By and large, I was just enjoying what he was doing, So many things in that film that he did. It was so funny, and the characters that he played were all his idea.
1,000 apologies for my face hitting your fisticuffs, Sahib. Who are you? I am Vijay. Vijay from Bombay. Bombay Air Conditioning. Let me present you with my card. When the going gets hot, the hot get air conditioning. Oh, it's a cute little slogan, wouldn't you say? Beat it. Perhaps later. But now I will fix your air conditioning.
The air conditioning guy, the Indian guy, that was all his idea. The Don King wig and all of that was all his idea. Stuck in that little tiny phone booth, But you see that huge back of his, bulging out of that tiny phone booth, That character that he played in the beauty salon with the bald head and everything like that. I loved that look. That was pretty much close to script. He didn't improvise very much there. but that character I thought worked great for that. And throughout the whole movie, that had a cumulative effect.
I am the Jules Delioche.
Oh, could you spell that, please?
I don't think so. Try it with a D.
You say you're from New York?
No. I work in New York. I am from Budapest.
Oh, Hungary.
No, thank you. I had a falafel before I got here.
But boy, John was just got everything. When you wrote a script, he got everything. Knew exactly what you were going for, and you never had to explain anything to him. He just got it all, and that was great. And then and then he gave you more than what was on the written page. But John was kind of amazing at it, in that you never had to explain anything to him. He got it.
Candy's final film was Wagons East in 1994. Director Peter Markle.
Well, I was Bobby Newmeyer was the producer. He had done Sex, Lies, a videotape, and we were working on another project that ended up being done by another director. And when this came around, he asked me about it, and I liked the script. Matt Carlson wrote it. It was a great idea. I'd done a Western years ago for HBO called El Diablo. It was really successful. It's always fun to do a comedy because I kind of wish I'd stuck with comedy, but it's much harder to do, as you know. Yeah, I went up to Toronto to meet him. So I was at his place. He's got a huge workout gym and great guy. He was a little sick then. He had a pretty bad cold, which he had recovered by the time we started shooting. But I remember him talking to his doctor on the phone, and but as he was talking to his doctor, he was smoking. So it's a little prescient, but a great guy. And the main thing he wanted to talk about is he wanted Mariel Hemingway to play across from him as one of the female lead, and we had already pretty much settled on Ellen Green. Yeah, we'd settled on Ellen Green, who won an Academy Award the previous year. I think I should have gone with John. It's amazing, it's like who am I, and just John wants Mariel. Mariel's great. I should have just said yes, because they were friends, and she's a good actress, and she brings something to the part for sure. I think that's the type of thing that it's amazing. It's like that they went along with it, but that was okay. Ellen's obviously a great actress, but Mariel would have been fine. But that was it. I mean, we really, kind of went through the script a little bit, and he liked less is more. And I remember seeing him on a scene with Uncle Buck, and Amy Madigan was on the other line, just castigating him, just reaming him out. And all he said was, it was just on him, and you could hear her screaming. And all he would say, he would try to, she would just stop him. He couldn't get a syllable out. It's one of the classic scenes ever. And there's no action, nothing in it. It's just John trying to get a word in edgeway with Anne. And he said John was great. He put on this, all his paraphernalia, the cowboy stuff, and, the vest, and then he had the big chaps and all that. And when I see him on the set, he'd pretend he was a hockey goalie. He'd put his arm out, and then was like pretending he was holding a stick. And he knew I'd played pro hockey for 4 years, so we talked about hockey quite a bit. Well, I mean, when you do a Western, it's Westerns are tough because there's a lot of paraphernalia. It's a lot of films, you do films and you put out all the sound effects in later, but the Western is the only one when you start rolling the wagons and the horses, you got all the sound effects right there. You're still going to augment them and change them, whatever. But it's there's just more life to it. So we had a lot of wagons on this thing, and stagecoaches. And one of the opening scenes, we have a 6-up coming through, which means 6 horses. And it's a practical matter. The good thing about horses, you can get them back to position 1 without any problem. And then you had to have double riders for everything. We had a double rider for John could ride, but if we're doing anything at speed, then we had somebody in a special suit. Like Ben Scott was his double, and he looked identical, and especially the way we shot him. Just his hair hat, it was easy to disguise. And then we did a land rush, so we had like 150 horses, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's just an unbelievable amount of horses to deal with and cart them and get them, get them to their starting marks and all that. But at one point, John got upset because we'd used a double for him instead of using him, but it was basically just him sleeping. I didn't think that'd be a problem, but I probably should have checked it out with him. And the previous night was a really good shoot. And he was in a really good mood. And so we just happened to visit the set and see it. But, it's just a director error. It's unforced error. You just, tell him that, hey, listen, there's not going to be any action. It's going to be you sleeping, and take the day off. But other than that, he was easy. He's easy. It's obviously he's very facile and, has good ideas. And, it worked well with Richard Lewis, who would have notes every single day. He'd send me, and some were good and some were bad. And we used a lot of them. Two different types of comics for sure.
Candy would suffer a massive heart attack on the film and pass away before shooting was over.
I found out in the morning when we came to the set, and one of the producers cleared the set, and I was actually on a maybe it was a teller's office or some goddamn thing, I don't know, whatever. And he told me that John had passed away, and it was like shocking. So then I had to go out and tell the crew and the actors, who were all just, totally taken back by it. And then I got a call from the studio. That would be, it was Croco, but it might have been TriStar. Again, I'm not really sure. And they wanted to know, they wanted to know if we could finish the film. So I was the one that had to kind of come up with finessing it, and that's what I did. I called them back, give me an hour. I called them back and said, this is what we're going to do. And they said, yeah, okay, go finish the film. Also, what's some note is that I can't remember who it was. It could have been Gary Marcus, the AD, who said you should take, key actor insurance out on John, which a lot of companies do, just matter of fact. So at the last minute, literally, I think the last day it was eligible, they took out a insurance policy on John, and they collected $13 million. They collected $13 million. To be frank, everybody's totally professional, and these were actors that were all incredibly experienced. When you go through the list, it's these are really strong actors. No, they're going to finish and they're going to do the best job, and they're going to try to figure out how to make it work. And they're going to want to get out of there. So, we went back to work the next day. I don't think we were working weekends, but we probably finished the end of the following week. So, no, you want to get out of there, and you want to do as good a job. And the actors got right back into it. There was a service that weekend, a big church in Durango, which was a really, it's kind of an industrial town. It's not really a pretty town, but it's had a lot of character to it. And I think it was it Cinco? I can't remember what holiday they were celebrating. We're all told to stay inside because everybody's discharging their guns into the air, and they always have fatalities with the bullets coming down and hitting people on the head. The paparazzi descended on Durango. I'm sure they had a lot of trouble trying to figure out how the hell they were going to get there. And they were total dicks. They were just totally, all they wanted was the scoop, and they wanted, they were like fighting over interviews, and it was like, they were total dicks. It was really uncomfortable, and I did a couple interviews. I finally just laughed. This is ridiculous. To me, that was the most negative thing that happened on the entire shoot, other than obviously John passing away. And when then John passed away, the Mexicans wanted to do an autopsy, and theoretically, but they got him in a plane. They got him out of there illegally, and then they got clearance to land in Phoenix. I might be wrong in this. It was a long time ago, but that's probably something I have right. So it could have been much messier than it really was. And so they had a private jet come in. The service was extremely moving, and again, I just remember, Richard Lewis, sitting in front of me, and his eyes started, whatever. He had something in his eye, so he takes out some, eye drops. Unfortunately, it was Banaka. So the next scene we ended up it's actually, you can see it in the scene, when they end up hiring John, his eye is totally red. But yeah, I know. It is what it is. Look, the fact of the matter is, it wasn't was it the movie The Crow where the lead actor passed away? That was a really dark film. Well, when the lead actor, and especially somebody of John's stature, pass away and it's a comedy, that's not going to work. So, it's a totally different phenomenon. And, obviously, that's a pretty hard one to recover from.
Yes, absolutely. They shut down the 405 freeway for, when the casket was being taken to the cemetery. They shut down the 405. And, it was tough, It was tough. Poor John. He, toward the end there, he was getting really, really bad anxiety attacks. Bad anxiety attacks. Because there was a history of heart trouble in his family. His dad died young of a heart attack. His younger brother had a heart attack while we were shooting. And John was getting heavier and heavier. And so he was working as hard as he could to make as much money as he could for his family. Because I think he was strictly operating under the premise that, he could go at any time. And that was really hard for him. It's my belief that that's what was causing all the anxiety,
Wagons East, although it is a comedy, is more of a tragedy because the whole time that it's the last time that you'll see Candy on screen and experiences incredible warmth and likability. Fortunately, the last scene he shot was quintessential Candy.
We shot the night before. In a huge scene. This was the biggest scenes where he was going to explain how, using like pots and pans and things, how he was going to, the route to getting back east. So he'd pick up a pan and say, we're going to go through Sioux country. And then he picked the pan up and it was like a muffin pan. He said, no, they're not as united as this muffin pan here. And then he picked something else up, so it was typical John Candy. And then as he's leaving, trying to seal the deal, he opens up the door, and it's raining like hell out. And he turns to Richard Lewis and Bob Cardo, who are deciding whether or not to hire him. And he says,
We leave at dawn. Noonish.
Yeah, noonish. I think that was, I don't know, I can't remember if John made that up or whether or not or I did it, or whether it probably was in the script. But it's just, he does it with such ease. That to me was one of the funniest parts. That he was really happy, and then that was then right after that, probably 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, he passed away in his bed.
As I said, he and Joe were very close. John loved telling a story about one time he and Joe had gone to dinner. John needed to back out, and Joe rolled down the window. And what John didn't realize is that Joe then looks out the window again to check, and he hit the power window, and he brought it right up on Joe's head, stuck Joe's head in the window there. John never got tired of telling that story, and never stopped laughing at it. The visual of that, he loved that story.